So I now have all the bits of the Eagle painted and finished. As you can see, I've painted all the details on the front part of the ship. I've also added some detail onto the landing pad area, which wasn't on the original die-cast toy, but I wanted to make this look a little bit more studio realistic than the toy originally was. Not too much, but enough to sort of make it stand out from some of the others in my collection. I've actually sprayed all of these parts again with a second coat of a clear lacquer. This is because these die-cast vehicles tend to chip very easily, especially this nose section of the Eagle. You just have to knock it on something and the paint will chip off. As you'll see with the original toys, they're always chipped around the edges. So a quick coat of a clear lacquer like this one. Again, this is a car spray lacquer, so you can pick this up anywhere. I think this costs about £3.50. It does make the finish slightly shinier than I would have liked, but hopefully it should also make the paint last better. It's a sort of a pro and a con thing. And here we have the jet section as well. This is all nicely painted now, so it looks pretty nice. In the meantime, for painting, I've also gone through the de-yellowing process on this white plastic grille section that goes over the back of the Eagle. Please check out some of my other videos for the de-yellowing technique that I use. I've used the same process as I did on the Stormtroopers, and it's worked really nicely. I've now got a very nice white sort of grille section that actually matches the white of the ship that I've painted, so that should all go back together quite nicely. So the next job is to put some stickers on it before I put it together. I've designed some stickers in Photoshop. These are based on some studio model shots that I found of the Eagle. This has some small Moonbase Alpha logos that need to go on the sides here. There's also a Moonbase Alpha logo that goes on the front of the Eagle nose cone just here. And then, unlike the original toy, I've made a few other sort of little sort of dark panels and orange panels and some other dots and bits to go on some of the detailing that you can see actually sort of within the die-cast section of the toy. This is just to sort of bring it to life a bit more, otherwise it does end up just looking like a completely white flat vehicle, and the original studio model had a lot of these little details in place, so hopefully this should make it look quite nice. So let's go ahead and start applying those, and then we can put the whole thing back together. I've created these very small detail decals which I'm going to attach to some of the panelling on this landing gear here. These are fairly fiddly because they're such tiny little decals, but I think they should add quite a lot to the look of this final ship. So let's get these applied. So there we have one side's worth of decals added. As you can see, they're fairly subtle little things, but I think they actually bring this ship to life a bit more. I've added the Moonbase Alpha logo onto the front nose cone section. This was never there on the toy originally, and also just these little flashes of colour and that onto this landing pad. It does make it look much nicer, so I'm going to go ahead and add these to the other ones and also onto the rear section, and it should look pretty sweet. When applying these decals, I always use a pair of very small tweezers because you can get much more accurate placement with them. Doing it by hand, your fingers are just too large to get them in the right place, so a good thing to do is pick up a pair of these small tweezers. Again, pick them up off eBay, only cost a couple of pounds, and you can use them for lots of jobs. One of the parts that was missing on my Dinky Eagle were these tiny windows that go inside of the sort of crew compartment, the bit that gets dropped by the Eagle transporter. I only have 2 of them and I need 4. So rather than trying to recreate them as they look here, which is a bit of clear red plastic, I'm going to remake them so that they look more like they do in the show. I've got a bit of clear plastic here which I've already scored and marked some bits that are exactly the same size as this piece, and I intend to paint one side of this black using acrylic paint and use some white paper to make lines across it, like it has 3 separate windows, because these original ones actually have tiny little lines to show windows. And then once I've got those painted, I can cut them out and I can just use a hot glue gun on the inside of the transporter body here and glue these in place. So we'll have black windows with little clear lines, and that should look pretty realistic. So here we have the thin bit of plastic, clear plastic. I've actually masked off where the lines are going to go, and I think I may even try and paint those white if the masking works well enough. So first thing to do is to paint all of these black. I've done a couple extra just in case it goes wrong. So let's see how this paint attaches to the plastic. We'll probably need a few coats because you want it to be a fairly solid black, but that's okay. So here we have the painted plastic. The masking I did on the other side didn't actually work out that well. When I pulled the tape off, the paint had just soaked straight underneath it, so it didn't look very good. So what I've done here is I've taken some very thin strips of a vinyl sticky black plastic I have, and I've stuck that over the top of it. And once that's cut to the right sizes, you end up with this. And these look pretty good. They match the holes perfectly. The white tape looks quite nice because it's slightly raised, and it looks more like the studio model than the original toy, so I'm pretty happy with those. So all I need to do now is I've got my glue gun here, and I'm going to just turning it over carefully, I'm going to stick a little bit of glue on the inside and stick these in place, and then I'll cut the other ones and do the other side, and then that's the bulk of the bits done for this transporter section. So I now have all the bits ready for the transporter section to put back together. The windows are all glued in place. I did this with hot glue gun, so you can see inside's a little bit of a mess, but I had to put quite a bit of glue on just to make sure the panels were held in neatly. So first thing we need to do is put all of the bits back onto the sort of landing section. So I've got the original landing feet here. These should just push back neatly through the holes in the bottom and click in place, like so. Do the other one here. So that's the landing feet in. Then we have the jets, which are the ones that I've chromed. So again, these should just squeeze through the holes in the bottom plate there. Might have to push these quite hard because this is a slightly harder plastic. There you go. So that's the first set of jets. Now for the other ones. So there we have, that's all of those items on the bottom of there. We now need to put this back together. You'll have seen in the first video that I actually drilled out the rivets. So to hold this together, let me just put the doors in place. I'm actually just going to use a little bit of super glue. It should be a fairly snug fit anyway, so just a little bit of glue around the rivet holes should hold this in place. As this is only for display, it doesn't need to be mega sort of firm sort of glue. I think you can replace these with proper rivets, but in this instance I'm just not going to bother. I think this should work perfectly well. So just a little bit of super glue around the edge of those rivets. This also means if I want to, I can take it back apart fairly easily if I want to make any future modifications, like maybe adding lights or something like that. So there's a bit of super glue. So just slot this back in place and give it a slight push to get it over the edge of the rivets. And there we have the finished midsection. Everything is now sort of nice and dry. The windows are held firmly in place. Because I've repainted everything and the model is slightly larger now, the doors shut perfectly and they shut very tightly. There's no sort of wobble in them, so that's very good. So that's the finished midsection. It looks pretty nice. Everything is how I wanted it. We've still got the original nice sort of red plastic of the toy on the doors and the landing gear, and the jets are nice and chromed, and everything else looks really smart. So let's get on and put the rest of the transporter back together. The little small jets that go on the side of the landing pods were quite damaged on the one I bought, as with the rest of the ship. I was thinking about buying another Eagle to sort of take the parts from, but it actually turned out it was cheaper to buy some reproduction ones. I've gone for red ones here. You can buy reproduction red or yellow versions of these. I've gone for red ones because actually I think this will look nicer with the sort of the red plastic used in the transporter section and on the bottom of the vehicle. So these were actually more expensive than the broken Eagle that I bought from the flea market, and you could probably have found a battered Eagle, but to save time, the reproduction ones will work perfectly. So let's put these engine pods back together. Same process as doing the transport thing. The jets need to push in and these go in, and then you just screw it all back together. And here we have the finished sort of body section. All the legs are screwed back on now. All I need to do is reattach the jet. The jets were originally held on with a small rivet on the back. As this is only going to be for display, I'm actually just going to super glue this on and put a small amount of super glue on the back of that and push these in place. And the rivet is still actually quite tight, so it should hold it quite nicely in place and be perfectly good for display purposes. So just need a tiny amount of super glue around this back section. Don't need a great deal. I think you don't want it to bleed too much, and it should hold it quite firmly. So that should be enough of that, and then all you've got to do is carefully push this over, so you don't want to chip any of the paint as you're doing it, and then push it into place. Just push it over the rivet like that and hold it for a few seconds. And here we have the finished eagle. As you can see, it's actually come out a lot better than I had expected it ever would. The detailing is looks pretty nice at this scale. Just a small amount of decals added to the model really bring it to life and make it look a much more sort of finished toy. The original green one just never quite did it for me. It just didn't look right, and I know Dinky said that children wouldn't like a white version of this toy, which is why they made it metallic green, but I think this just looks so much better. It's so much more like the show, and when you want to play with the toy, you're playing with it because it looks like something in a show that you've seen. So doing all of this work on it really has brought it to life. I hope this guide has been helpful to you, and it gives you some inspiration for what you can do if you ever find a battered Dinky eagle on the market, because you can actually make them look pretty nice with a very small amount of work. So I think it's well worth doing. And here, just for comparison, we have the original Dinky eagle. This is a version 1 eagle. You can tell it's version 1 because it comes with yellow jets, and also the back jets are chromed. As you can see, mine's still a little bit battered, this old one, but the one I've repainted just looks a lot more sort of fancy and complicated in its detailing. The original one I do still like. I love these toys. They're one of my favourite of the sort of the old Dinky range. They just feel so substantial, but there's nothing quite like having a pristine looking one that looks like it did in the show. So anyway, thanks for watching. I hope this tutorial about how to sort of fix and restore an old vintage Dinky eagle has been useful to you, and please join me for more videos, and you can find more pictures of this restoration on Facebook, so join me there. Thanks for watching.